Here we go. Hey everybody, Dan Shinder here on Drum Talk TV, and I'm broadcasting from... Where am I broadcasting? From Globe, Arizona. Where's that, you ask? It's 100 miles east of Phoenix, up in the mountains. And we've got Nettie Baker in the London area. We've got Kofi Baker in the Chicago area. I want to thank you both so much for taking time to join me. We're here to celebrate your dad's life, your dad's music. He had a very, very long musical career. We're going to touch on some other fun stuff, but I'd like to start with this. Let's start with the wonderful tribute show that Eric Clapton put together. And Nettie, if you could first articulate, how did you find out about the show, and what did you feel about it when you found out that Eric was putting this together?
Well, I found out about it quite early on, as we didn't end up going to the funeral because of a lot of issues. So I was really pleased that he was going to do it, and they mentioned that they wanted to do a tribute. How did I feel about it? And I said I was really really for it. And I'd said then that I thought Kofi definitely should play. So yeah, I was really pleased.
That's great. And Kofi, how did you find out about it? What was your response when you found out you're going to get to play in it?
Well, I found out, pretty soon after my dad died. I was talking to Eric when my dad died. He was going to come to the funeral, and then as that didn't happen, he talked about putting something together himself, and he contacted me like a month later, and we talked about what we were going to do and everything. He called me in the middle of the airport, so I was trying to talk to him with all the airport stuff going over, which was kind of interesting. But yeah, so we just started talking about rehearsals and what songs, and it was put together quite a few months before it happened. But it was great to do it. It was really, really great thing that Eric to that together. He's the only man that could have actually put that together at that, with those people. So it was a great thing.
Oh, that's awesome. And what is there? I mean, other than you got to do a drum solo, we'll talk about the songs you played. Was there a highlight that you have in your mind for both of you? Kofi playing it and Nettie just being there?
Well, I mean, the whole thing was great for me. It was just the whole thing was really, really nice of Eric to put it on, and it was great meeting all those people. I'd never met Stevie Winwood before. I never met Ronnie Wood or Roger Waters. I hadn't met those people before, so it was great to meet those people and have them, do tribute to my dad. It was a great feeling.
Roger Waters was in New York, Kofi, when we were at Madison Square Garden. He was at the after show.
He was?
Yeah, and he didn't have an AAA pass, and they weren't going to let him through. And I said, "He's Roger Waters. You've got to let him in."
Oh wow!
Oh yes, that's right. He was. Yeah. So I had met him before. I met him at the dinner table. That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, so I had met him before. Just forgot.
It's an amazingly star-studded list of people who were there. Of course, Eric, Steve Gadd, Kenny Jones, amazing historic drummers.
Steve Gadd is great too. Steve Gadd,
yeah.
really nice.
And he lives down in Phoenix, not far from me. Sonny Emery, Henry Spinetti, Roger Waters, as you mentioned, Nile Rodgers, Steve Winwood. How cool of him to be there, because he's such a big part of your father's musical legacy as well. Paul Carrick, Chris Stainton. Yes, I'm cheating, folks. I'm reading some notes because I can't remember all these names. Sharon White, Katie Kissin, Willie Weeks. Did I miss anybody? I mean, what a list of artists.
Yeah.
No, it's good.
Oh, yeah. Steve Gadd was a great thing for me because obviously being a drummer, Steve Gadd's like the guy you grow up going, wow, Steve Gadd.
Right.
So really, really wonderful to play next to him and talk to him and just, meet him because he's a really nice guy. 100% nice guy.
Very down to earth.
Very down to
Kenny,
earth. Yeah.
Kenny Jones is a really nice guy. I've seen him. He's got a polo place in Sussex that I've been to.
Oh.
The year before last, we hung out, and he used to be at Ham when my dad was playing polo at Ham in the mid '70s. So my dad knew him then. So he's in my dad's book, and my dad's in his book. Riding horses and hanging out. So yeah, and he's a real gentleman, Kenny Jones.
I've heard that about him.
He's just a very, very nice guy. He's also been very helpful to us because a lot of people who, I work with Johnny Chandler, who's the A&R at Universal, and he works with Kenny as well. And also Kenny's put a few people on to me. They wanted to find stuff out. He's put them through to me. So, yeah, he's a really nice guy too.
Oh, that's great. That's great. And when I go back to the music of that special night, starting with Kofi. Kofi, what else did you play? I know that you played a drum solo. And, folks, there's a link in the text of this post.
Yes, a short drum solo.
It's short. And then if you search out...
It's not half an hour long.
Right. But if you search out Kofi Baker Drum Talk TV, you'll see an interview that we did a few years ago where I was at Kofi's clinic and filmed a lot of great stuff. And we'll get to some more musical stuff about that in a moment. But tell everybody, besides the solo, what else you played that night.
Well, I did Press Rat and Warthog, which was my dad's singing song.
Right.
Which was great to do. And like I said, Eric, we got together 2 days before the gig, and he didn't know Press Rat and Warthog. And I was like, well, you kind of played the song. It's like, 30 years ago. So
right.
I think they played it in a reunion, though. So that was 15 years ago. But he forgot how to play it. So that's why, the band's a little bit... kind of following me on that song because they weren't really knowing what was going on. But that was really great to play. Like I said, it's my dad's song, so it's really wonderful to play that at that tribute.
Did you sing it as well?
Yes, yeah. I did.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's awesome. I haven't seen that
And it's
one.
not really singing, is it?
Well,
it's spoken
I mean,
words.
that's how I managed to do it, because if they'd have asked me to sing something when we did this tribute in Newcastle, it would have been like a disaster. But, as it's just like speaking, I managed to do it.
Yeah, that's true. It is more like spoken word.
It's hard to be in key when you're playing drums and you have the microphone so close to the monitor because it'll feed back. So you have to have the vocals kind of low in the monitor. Because I'm doing... Blue Condition, another one of my dad's songs. It's actually sung, and that's really hard to get to be in key when you're playing because you've got to try and listen to the vocals and get in key. So Press Rat's easier because you don't have to be in key because it's spoken word.
Yeah, well, that raises an interesting point, and that is when you performed it, were you using open monitors or in-ear monitors?
Open. I always use open monitors. I'm not really used to the monitors, so I use open monitors all the time.
Okay, so that makes sense. And Nettie, you mentioned when we were talking earlier, you've done that song as well, right?
Yeah.
Just the drums, though.
Well, I'm used to being on stage and speaking. But no, I didn't play the drums. But they asked me, my daughter, there's a band, they did a beautiful tribute, Air Force tribute. It's someone we know in Newcastle, and they're going to do some other stuff whenever we're allowed to. My daughter did sing. She sung Sweet Wine. She's got a fantastic voice. So they had all the brass section, and they were all proper musicians, reading music and everything. They were good. And so they said, "Could I do Press Rat?" Oh my God! It was, it's not really my thing, but I decided it was just like a punk rock version of Press Rat. But it was fine, and it's on our Facebook page, Ginger Baker, in the video section.
Cool.
I think I posted it up.
Actually,
maybe I didn't. Maybe I didn't post it up, actually. I don't think I did because I was so embarrassed. But I might. But it was, but it was still nice to do it because, like Kofi says, I mean, it's a sort of tribute you can do to Dad, and you can do your own interpretation of the song. And for that, I really enjoyed it. So it was fun. Yeah, it was fun. And it wasn't like the Hammersmith Odeon. There was like probably 50 people there. That wasn't so bad.
That's great. And you knew all of them probably, right?
Well, no, I didn't know any of them, but
okay.
I mean, thank God, so it was okay. But they clapped, they were polite.
Oh, that's great.
It's nice to do.
For each of you, what is the earliest memory you have of your dad playing music? Whether with a band or just at the drums by himself or playing some records or whatever?
Well, my earliest memories of him playing the Watusi drummers through the wall in our maisonette in Neasden, and I remember just hearing that on and on and on and on and on. So it's like the drums, the drums, the drums. And then from then on, it was just everyone was in your house, from the Graham Bond organisation, from people before that. So, and my earliest memories of him playing was practising on a practice pad. on and on and on and on and on and on and on. So it's something that's
and Nettie loves
from
that.
the
Like, will you stop fantasying? There's enough of that, please. I need to go sit. There's enough of that. I'm practicing on my bloody pillow in the dining room downstairs. On a pillow. She comes down. There'll be enough of that now.
the drums. So yeah, it was dinned into me from, you know, I could never escape from them from as you know, from my earliest memories for me. I don't know what Kofi's earliest drumming memories were.
How about you, Kofi?
Well, I mean, my earliest memory is crying my eyes out because my dad made me play a paradiddle and said, keep that paradiddle going until I get back, and forgot about me and left for 2 hours. And obviously, you know, you did what your parents told you to do back then, especially with our parents. And I remember it's just like, when's my dad coming back? My hands were killing me and I kept playing a paradiddle. So those are my early memories of my dad teaching me stuff. I mean, I remember seeing him at some concert when I was really young that my mum took me to, so they must have been still together at the time, so I must have been really young. My dad saying, well, why don't you say hi to me at the concert? And I'm like, there's 1,000 people there or something. I'm in the back waving, Dad! Look, obviously, so,
if you think of that time period, Kofi, do you remember what band it was?
I have no idea. Atomic
Must
Rooster?
have been Baker Gervitz, I would have thought, or something.
Maybe,
like
yeah.
Oh,
Wasn't it
yeah.
Atomic Rooster or something? Wasn't there a band, Atomic Rooster, he was in or something?
Yeah, but I don't think we ever went to see them because they really didn't like them.
Oh, okay.
or Hawkwind. Hawkwind and Atomic Roosters.
Was he in Atomic Rooster before or after Carl Palmer? This is something I never knew, actually.
Who?
Carl Palmer?
After Carl Palmer. I don't know anything about Carl Palmer, so it must have been. Atomic Rooster was around 79, 80.
Oh, then I think it's a reformed Atomic Rooster or a different band, because Carl Palmer of Emerson, Lake and Palmer.
Oh, we see the drum in that. Don't ask me drummer questions because I've got no idea.
But long before Emerson, Lake and Palmer, so it must have been in the 60s.
Oh,
or
Emerson, Lake and Palmer. Yes, I know who they are. Yeah, they're good. Right, okay, now I know who he is.
So I have a question. I've heard from so many people, and folks, I'll look at questions in just a moment and comments. But I've heard from so many people and read people who have, now don't laugh, okay? And that goes for you folks watching too. But I've heard that everyone that's met Ginger Baker has said what a gentleman he really was. So
I'm laughing.
What, was he, or were they just saying that to not get the crap kicked out of them? Like, what's the deal? Because I hear that from so many people.
It depends. It depends who, where, what, how.
Yeah. How much drugs he's had.
And, you know, time before he was deaf, because obviously once he got deaf, he couldn't hear. And it depends who his influences were, who he was with at the time. It was a massive depending on. You know,
I used to travel, you know, I used to carry joints with me when I went to Italy, so I get him stoned, so it'd be nice.
There you go. If the medicine fits, hey. and I did this with Kofi when we got together a few years ago, but Kofi, maybe you'll think of some other ones. I've never asked Nettie this question, but and save a couple of them for later in this interview, but can you each give me one or two funny dad stories? We all have those, and I'm sure folks would love to hear one of yours.
Okay, you want to go first, Nettie?
Oh God, there's millions of them.
I know
one I can think of, the one that's in my book is very funny, which is I think it's in my first book, so that's in Tales of a Rockstar's Daughter. Everybody, Amazon, Weimar UK. And that's when I met there was an English glam rock band called Sweet, and their drummer was a guy called Mick Tucker. Well, I met the bass player of Sweet, and he said to me, my drummer Mick Tucker has a story about your dad. Can you tell me if you think it's true? So I said, well, go on then. And he said, well, Mick Tucker met your dad at the Speakeasy one night at the bar, and he went up to him and he says, hey, Ginger, how you doing? And he said, minding my own beeping business. And he said, do you think that's true? And I said, yeah. But another one that I've got of him that I was with him was we were driving in a car down the A40, which is one of our motorways. And as we stopped at the traffic lights, he had the window open, and a guy on a motorbike just put a piece of paper and a pen through the window, and he signed it and gave it back to him. That was quite cool.
That's funny.
Knew who it was.
That'd be real funny if, unbeknownst to him, it was a check.
Yeah.
£10 million. But yeah, that was quite funny. But yeah, we've got thousands and thousands of dad stories.
Yeah.
And
Cool.
loads of them are in my books. So loads of them are in my books.
Well, my earliest funny story is me and my sister in the Jensen probably driving, and some road incident happened, and some guy got pissed off or something. And I remember my dad. They pulled into the same parking spot. My dad pulled up right beside him, and my dad said effing something, and the guy said, "Don't you swear at me." And all I remember.
No, it was his wife it was at the swimming baths in the car park, and then he went.
Yeah, he just like for 10 minutes.
Like
I never heard so many words. It's like me and my. Was you there as well? I know Lita was there. I think we were all there.
He was driving Lita
like,
to swimming.
That's
he
right.
swore they said, please do not use bad language, and he used every swear word known to mankind. It was hilarious.
I mean, even ones not known to mankind.
Yeah.
Just lit the fuse, right?
Yeah, it's just great.
Oh,
He was always a nutcase. He blew himself up in Italy so many times lighting the stufa.
Yeah.
He would get so mad, like he was trying to light it, and we'd be getting mad. There's gasoline going everywhere, and you go, I'm like, this isn't a good thing. There's gasoline everywhere. And I walked out of the house because I didn't want to see it. And all I did was a big explosion. The thing flies off the roof of the stufa, the chimney thing. And he comes out with half his, eyebrows gone and beard.
Was he all black, like a cartoon, like all charred, smoky?
Right. I mean, it was just, but that was constant. He'd have his hands on fire, running around, going. It was just like
One time in Italy, he got really drunk. He drove the car back up the mountain on the wrong side of the road. He thought he was in England. And luckily no one else was coming. And then I'd gone to bed, and he came in and he just kept shouting, Nettie! Nettie! At the top of his voice. It was like hiding. Oh my God, help me.
Wow.
Yeah, well.
Oh, man.
I've got tons of them.
Do both of you have, I'm sure there's many, but do both of you have some favorite works of music by your father that you could listen to today and you're not it's not overplayed in your mind because you truly enjoy the music, not just because it's your dad, but because you really like that music?
Well, I think for me, a lot of Blind Faith stuff and a lot of Air Force stuff as well.
Yeah.
Can't Find My Way Home, songs like that. I mean, you can always listen to.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are great songs, yeah.
There's a lot of it. I mean, I'm not into the jazz, really, I have to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Yes, we know that.
Jazz Club, nice.
Kofi, how about you?
Well, I like the jazz stuff more, obviously, but I mean, like Nettie said, Can't Find My Way Home, Friends of the Lord, all of those tunes that I play are such great tunes that, I love playing them, and I love hearing them. So, I mean...
the Graham Bond stuff as well is really,
yeah.
They were really cutting edge, that band.
Yeah.
Yeah, really good, yeah.
That and Can't Find My Way Back Home, I believe, are reflections of his playing that most people don't even really think of when they think of his playing in general. And I don't mean that as a criticism in any way to those people or his playing. I mean that it's kind of like John Bonham in a way. Most people think he was just a basher, but there's so many songs with all these little subtleties. I see that side of your father's playing a lot, too, that I think doesn't surface to most people's minds. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. I mean, he was, he could read treble and bass clef. He could write it all out. He was very musically trained, and people don't realize that. They think he's just a rock. He could write out, music for everybody, because of studying the jazz stuff.
Yeah.
He made me when I was very young. So, that was a very schooled person. People don't know.
Yeah, and that Eric does say that in Beware of Mr. Baker, the film. Eric does say that. And also, that's why it was so good, Eric doing the tribute, apart from the fact that he was his best mate, and they really were best mates.
Yeah, the stories you told me were hilarious.
I know, and they had some really, really good times, which were about them, and that the concert was about them. And then the other people, some people said, well, he didn't know them, or it was a tribute. So it was their tribute to him, whether he was their friends. And so that was Eric's friends with him paying tribute. But also Eric did Blue Condition, which I think he did an amazing interpretation of that, because, you know, he understood that's something that they had in common with their friendship, was that musical, that level of interpretation, and which with Jack is what made Cream so great.
Yeah,
they were the best, and that's why they said we're the Cream. So, you know.
Yeah, it was thought of as really possibly the first super group, number one. They put out such an amazing catalog of music in such a short period of time, and here we are 85 years later, and that music is still so relevant, you know. And one thing I admire, folks, if you're not familiar with Kofi's playing, listen, this is important. One of the things that I really fell in love with about your playing, Kofi, when we filmed you doing that clinic, and then we did the interview a few years ago, is that you really embraced what you learned from your father, and I'm sure elsewhere, the fact that rock came from blues, which came from jazz, which came from African rhythms. And I hear, so when you do a drum solo, I hear all those things. And someone just sent us through our website, you know, people submit videos, something from Uganda. And these rhythms I'm hearing, I've heard in your drum solos. I mean, you really have taken the lineage of where music has come from and applied all of it. And I really admire that, because a lot of people don't either understand the roots of music or they don't apply it. Does that make sense?
Right. Well, I mean, yeah, because I mean, a lot of people that listen to Cream or listen to my dad, they learn what he played in Cream because they think and they learn that. But my dad's playing the Cream came from all the jazz and all the African influences and everything else he had. So you have to kind of learn that backstory to be able to know my dad's drumming. And obviously, when he taught me the way he learned, which he taught me jazz first and taught me all the jazz stuff, and then started applying all the African drumming to me and everything. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was the greatest thing learning that African stuff, because it's great drum solo stuff. I mean, a lot of people do drum solos and they just do technique and drum solos, but the African thing has a groove, and the African drummers just play with just their drums and they keep it going for hours. And so that's interesting and groovy stuff. So when my dad taught me that stuff, I loved it and I thought it was great. And even more now my dad's dead, I feel it's my duty to keep his legacy alive as long as I can and keep that stuff out there, because not a lot of people are doing that kind of drumming. And for me, I feel like obviously it's what I play most naturally because I've taught it, but it's so important for me to keep it out there as much as I can now.
Yeah, that's
great.
I
agree, and I agree about the legacy. It's Kofi does the musical legacy, and I do as he said, you know, educating people on, you know, what my dad's life was, and like he was touring with Sister Rosetta Tharpe in 1958. Yeah. You know, he was before then. He was with Bob Wallace's Storyville Jazzmen and Chris Barber and all the people before, you know, John Bonham and people like that were kids.
Yeah.
It was way ahead. He taught them, they followed him, and that's what people don't understand. It's not Baker Bonham Moon. Baker Bonham Moon were friends, and they all went out and, you know, they would have bands and say, you know, oh, you mate to each other and have fun together. But they looked up to him, and that's what people don't understand. So when he said, oh, he slagged them off, he hasn't. That was like mates. And he always said, if they were alive, ask them.
You know, I gotta say, if there's one wall on the planet I would like to be on as a fly, it would be a fly on that wall with those three guys in a room.
Yeah.
Even without drums.
Yeah. But they were, you know, they were friends and they did hang out, but I don't think they talked about drums. I mean, they just talked about, you know, whatever guys in their 30s talk about. I don't know.
Yeah.
I wouldn't like to say, but, you know, Charlie Watts is another friend of my dad's, and he did get to speak to my dad before he died. It was another very, very close.
And another jazz guy, too.
Yeah, and he was a great friend of Ringo as well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the tributes that came out when he died, from Mick Jagger, who, everyone said he'd slagged him off, that's not the point. Paul McCartney, all of those people paid tribute because they were paying tribute to the musical legacy, which was so phenomenal.
Yeah.
And Cream was his band. Cream was his band. And, that's what we need to keep. We need to get that out there. We need people to know that. And, Kofi is keeping the music going. And Hammersmith Odeon, the crowd just couldn't believe when they saw Kofi. Just,
yeah.
And he needed to be seen by an audience.
Well, it doesn't. I don't notice when I'm playing.
Hopefully world, when it comes back, well, everybody will notice again.
Oh.
No, I mean, I don't notice when I'm playing a show like a big. I'm in the music and I'm communicating.
Well,
with people.
obviously, you can't see it out there.
I'm communicating. So it's to me, it's just like just a gig where I'm having fun with the people on stage.
I mean, everyone. I went to the toilet and I could hear. They didn't know who I was, and they were like, "Oh my God, his son! Oh my God!" People were just, couldn't believe it. It was really the reaction, and I know the reaction, as I said, Steve Winwood and Eric, all of those people, and I got a lot of feedback from Eric's team, said, he did his dad so proud, and, Steve Winwood on stage was like, get him back on when he heard him, because, it really was, it's good, it was good, and that's the thing we need to keep going about my dad, is to keep that legacy alive,
Yeah.
There's a lot more mileage in it, I'll tell you.
Oh, I'm sure. Let's look at some comments and see some questions, folks. I'm going to blow through a bunch of these. Victor, that's a good question. I'll get to that in a moment, I promise. Let's see. Ginger is legend. And folks just joining us, we're here with Kofi and Nettie Baker, two of Ginger's 3 children. How's your sister, by the way?
Lida?
Yeah.
She's fine.
Good.
As far as I know.
Good. Okay.
She's in Holland still, I think, right?
Still walking around Amsterdam.
Yeah, she's walking around probably right now.
Yeah.
Oh, so Victor, here's a couple questions from Victor, and thanks everyone for joining us. Where are we? Here we go. Kofi, do you have the govness drumming style?
Do I have the what?
Governor's drumming style. Tell him to go and bloody listen to the YouTube clip.
Yeah.
Does he have it?
Watch the clip in the post link after this interview.
Yeah, Victor, you need to go and listen. But don't ask that question.
Yeah. And I saw another question. Oh, a comment. I first heard Ginger play in 1968. I knew then he was going to be my drum master. That's from Victor Baca. Thank you for that. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Not everyone's got questions, but a lot of nice comments. I love your dad's work. I developed his style of playing, though I had to learn paradiddles.
Paradiddles.
I think you mean paradiddles, yeah. And how about this? Can you elaborate how Phil Seaman influenced Ginger?
Oh, well, if you go and buy the book Hellraiser on Amazon, you will find the answer.
Yeah,
but
it's a
all I
great
can say is that, and it's also in the documentary Beware of Mr. Baker, it explains it very clearly. But yeah, Phil Seaman was, was my dad's god. He was my dad's drum god.
Yeah.
When he was a jazz drummer, and that was his person he looked up to.
And he studied with Art Blakey, of course.
Yeah, and so he, Phil was the person for him, and when Phil finally spoke to him, he was, absolutely over the moon and thrilled, because that was his hero. Unfortunately, Phil wasn't the nicest of people, but, he was, there's a very interesting interview with Phil, actually, that you can hear, if you look it up on YouTube. It's like a radio interview, or it's a spoken interview. It's not filmed. But when I listened to it, it made my blood chill, because it was his mannerisms and everything he said were my dad, and I thought that's where you got it from. You copied him. So Phil Seaman, yes, was his mentor without a shadow of a doubt, and also great. Kofi probably agrees. Jay found in Beware of Mr. Baker a little bit of their drum duet, which was amazing.
Yeah.
And Phil looks so sort of proud,
Yeah.
When it's like that's his. His pupil has come up that good. So
yeah, and on that note, earlier today, to promote this interview, I posted I forgot what year, but it's a black and white film of your dad and Art Blakey doing a duo as well.
Oh, right, yeah, that drum battle, drum duet,
Yeah, that was really neat. And by the way, Nettie, when we're done, I'm going to go back into the post and I'm going to put the links to both of your books. Folks, I've read both of them.
There's 4. There's not 2, there's 4.
There's 4. I have links to 2, I think. Send me the others. Send me the. I've read the 2 though, and they're hilarious and they're nostalgic. They're historic. There's so much in there. They're great. You really did a great job on those. If people really want a peek behind the curtain, these books are great. Yeah, really fantastic.
They also have a book too, you know.
Yeah,
but Kofi,
they do advertise.
Yeah, but Kofi, we're not talking about coloring books, okay?
No, he's got a drum book.
I'm kidding. Talk about your book, Kofi.
Miffy goes flying, though.
Miffy goes flying. Yeah.
I'm kidding. Tell us about the book.
My book's a drum book, obviously. It's basically how my dad taught me to play. So I kind of condensed it in one book as best I could. I was going to do multiple books, but I just did one.
It's on Amazon.
Yeah, it's on Amazon. It's called The Forgotten Foot. It's basically teaching drummers how my dad taught me to play from the beginning, to get your left foot in there.